council, we are grateful for your guidance of us in the past, and we ask again for direction for the future. We are also thankful for the confidence in this council illustrated by the unopposed candidacies of Council Members Sell and Pappalardo in the 2024 election. We appreciate the service of Councilmember Butlin in the role of Vice Mayor for the last 4 years, and will reassign that role today, either to her or another council member. We ask for guidance for our Vice Mayor over the next 2 years. As we consider the challenges and achievement of the last years, we acknowledge that many individuals have contributed to the ability of our city to step up to its responsibilities. We are so very grateful to all who have aided in this journey. Amen. This evening, we are honored to have a vocalist with us to sing the national anthem before our pledge. She was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. The doctor said she would never read, write, or speak correctly. Through love, therapy, and lots of prayer, she overcame. In 2024, she graduated from Deltona High with honors. Please welcome one of Volusia County's own, Melody Aviles. Please come up to the podium in the front. No, she can be in the front where we can all see her.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you so very much, Melody. Now please join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now I will ask the city clerk to swear in our council members, first Jim Papalardo and then Councilmember William Sell, to their new 4-year terms.
Can't tell if it's on. Yes? Okay.
Raise your hand. I, Jim Papalardo, do solemnly swear
I, Jim Papalardo, do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Florida,
the Constitution of the State of Florida,
the Charter of the City of DeBary,
the Charter of the City of DeBary,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the State,
under the Constitution of the State,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
of the City of DeBary City Council, DeBary, Florida,
of the City Council, City of DeBary, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
of which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, Councilmember Papalardo.
I, William Sell, do solemnly swear
I, William Sell, do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and the government of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Florida,
the Constitution of the State of Florida,
and the Charter of the City of DeBary,
and the Charter of the City of DeBary,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the State,
under the Constitution of the State,
and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties
that I will well and faithfully perform my duties
of council member of the DeBary City Council, DeBary, Florida,
of the Council of the City of DeBary, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
which I am now about to enter, so help me God.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Councilmember Sell. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please? It's the most work the city clerk gets all year long.
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazé.
Here?
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. Now we will select a vice mayor for the coming 2 years. This is according to our charter. Every time we constitute a new council, we select a vice mayor. As I have said in the past, who you nominate and select should be an individual who has time and availability during the business week, during the day, because many of the vice mayor duties come during the business day, and the vice mayor also steps in for me, and many of my outside responsibilities for this council happen during the business day and during the week, as well as some weekend times. So with that reminder again that we seek someone who has the ability and capacity to serve, I would open it for nominations. As I've said in the past, under Robert's Rules of Order, it is permissible for you to nominate yourself. Now that seems very odd, but if you think about it, when the position on this council came available that you are now seated in, you volunteered yourself. You nominated yourself by filing papers to run for the seat, and this is very much in the same vein. So you may nominate yourself. We would have a second of any nominations, and then we would have a vote. So I would entertain any nominations for vice mayor for the coming 2 years.
I nominate Councilmember Butlin.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes,
Councilmember Butlin?
I accept.
And my vote is yes. So we will call you Vice Mayor Butlin for the remainder of the meeting.
Of the year.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And I've appreciated your steady assistance in my mayoral duties in the past, which I assume will continue in the future.
Yes.
And I think that in her previous years, Vice Mayor Butlin has served the city well, and your faith in her is well placed. Now we would have public participations on any items not on the agenda. When I call your name, would you approach the podium, say your name and address for the record. Josh Rivera.
Hello, everyone. Josh Rivera, 370 Miller Road, Orange City. We're just here on behalf of Miller Road to thank you all for pumping the water out of Miller Lake. Honestly, if it wasn't for you folks doing that for us, we would be drowning because there's currently water flowing still into Miller Lake as you're pumping the water out, which we're very grateful for. I want to thank each one of you. You're the only thing keeping us, not completely drowning in, water going into people's houses and stuff like that. And there has been quite a bit of progress. There's still a long ways to go. Our road that we use, Miller Road, it has that temporary road on top of there. That temporary road is about 6 feet above the regular road, the original road that was there. And, the water is just still 4 or 5 feet in areas, even deeper than that. So, but we have made progress, and we really want to let you know that we appreciate it. And we couldn't thank you enough. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Reese Linton.
Good evening. Reese Linton, 359 Miller Road in Orange City, Josh's neighbor. And I want to also really mirror what Josh had to say. It's much appreciated what you've done. I really feel you're the only government entity that has done anything. The storm was 3 months ago, and the water is slowly receding from my property. I have access to my shed again, my pool equipment. My well is only 5 inches underwater as opposed to 3 feet. The request I have, I don't know if it's possible, I hope we can keep pumping for the next, it might be a couple of months, maybe before rainy season starts. I understand there's going to be a shelf life to this. But if we can get in a position to where we need to be in the next couple of months, get enough water out, and then we're tasked here, of course, to get some valves and drains shut off through Volusia County. We'll take care of that. Again, if you guys can continue to do what you're doing, it's making a huge impact. It's saving my neighbors, my family, and I just want to thank you all very much for approving this and keeping this going. It's been several weeks you've already done this, so.
Well, thank you for your comments. I do believe the city manager has spoken with FDOT, who is another party to this effort, within the last day or so, and he might briefly just tell you what he understands from FDOT.
The county is still pumping into the FDOT pond, and FDOT is still pumping into DeBerry Plantation front entrance. You don't notice a difference simply because we pump out 10 times the water, the rate that they're pumping in. Our capacity at the Burr Pit is excellent. We're on the Burr Pit now is only probably 20% full versus when we first started, it was 100% full.
At the brim, yes.
But we have capacity, and so we have the availability to continue on. And so we'll continue to work with the county and FDOT to meet those needs.
So that's not a promise in perpetuity, but you're good for now, is how I read that.
I'll take it.
And Mayor, one
you.
more comment.
Yes.
Our efforts have been to assist the county
Yes.
in this particular effort. The county is obviously has the burden on trying to resolve this, and so our efforts is to work with FDOT and the county to assist them, our neighboring government agency. So,
Thank you. And I'll just say, once we figure out our infrastructure flooding issues, please annex us. We'd love to be part of DeBerry.
Thank you. Okay, next on our item, are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda that was published? Hearing none, we move on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from the special city council meeting of November 20th, 2024, the city council meeting of December 4, 2024, and the special city council meeting of December 18th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for November 20th, 2024, December 4th, 2024, and December 18th, 2024.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Next, we have our consent agenda. And so is there any item that anyone wishes to pull from the consent agenda? If not, then I would take a motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 4 and 5 as written.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Moving on to new business, the staff is requesting the City Council approve the Kimley Horn proposal, individual project order 23, in the amount of $41,738 to assist with the establishment of a train horn quiet zone.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Richard Villasenor, City Engineer. The purpose of this is to establish a train horn quiet zone at the city's 3 rail crossings. That includes High Banks, Fort Florida Road, and Barwick Road. The considerations here are that rail service has increased with the new Sunrail extension to to DeLand. The city's new downtown will have the highest residential densities, located immediately adjacent to the Sunrail station at Fort Florida Road. The train horn complaints from residents in adjacent communities, we've already received some, but these are expected to increase even more. For example, Rivington is only 2 phases built out of 5, so with the additional residences nearby, those will increase. The control of horn noise is to preserve and enhance quality of life for the combined retail, residential, and public use of adjacent areas. The safety measures, such as pre-approved risk reduction engineering treatments, will be installed at all rail crossings to help maximize safety benefits and minimize risk. Some examples of these are medians with channelized devices. For example, Fort Florida Road already has what's called a quad gate, a gate at all 4 corners as opposed to just the incoming traffic. The cost of this proposal is $41,738 to be paid from the Public Works budget for this specific item as approved in the 24-25 budget. And the recommendation is that City Council approve the Kimley Horn proposal in the amount of $41,738 to assist with the establishment of the train horn quiet zone and authorize the city manager to execute the proposal agreement. And then the study, which is the main part of this, will begin once we are able to execute this proposal. And I will take any questions.
Okay. City Clerk, do we have any public comment?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
When I saw this on the agenda, I was really happy. This is checks off the quality of life box, so excellent.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No comments.
Councilmember Stevenson?
I'm glad that High Banks was included in this, even though it's not down next to the train station. Now that we have Sunrail going to DeLand, there's a lot of homes over by High Banks that are here in the train, so I appreciate that.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
No comments.
My only question is this a budgeted item? And if not, where is it coming from?
It is. It was in the 24-25 budget under the Public Works. The specific line item, I'd have to get back.
I don't need the line item. I just need to know that we have it covered within the budget.
Yes.
And that this is not coming from some other pot of money.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I think it's a great idea. I'll get him in a minute. I think it's a great idea because it is a quality of life issue, and now that we have more people and more traffic and more trains, I think it's a no-brainer. City Manager?
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear. This is for Kimley Horn's assistance in the application and getting the approval
Correct.
from the federal government. Any improvements that we have to make is going to be a separate cost that we'll have to allocate.
Okay, but this study was my question. We're
Yep.
spending $41,000. Is it budgeted within the budget?
Yes.
That was the answer.
And I just
Great.
want to make sure that for 41,000, you're not expecting all
I would love to expect all the equipment as well, but I understand that it's not realistic.
On that note, just to
Yeah.
also add, correct, good clarification. This will include the study and the permitting through DOT and the rail.
Okay, great.
So the only thing missing would be the physical.
And figuring out the budgeting for that, which we can do down the road.
Right.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is the city manager's request.
We need a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have to vote on it. Excuse me. Yeah, we ought to do something about it. I would entertain a motion.
Anybody? All right. Make a motion to approve the Kimley Horn proposal in the amount of $41,738 to assist with the establishment of a train horn quiet zone and authorize the city manager to execute the proposal agreement.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next item on our agenda is under new business as well. Item 7, the city manager is requesting the city council discuss and provide guidance on a proposed DeBerry Foundation, Inc.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Wanted to, as you know, as you remember, the council had directed me to bring back all the details of what it would take to put a foundation together. As you know, and many of us have been approached when we had Alexander Island, residents are asking, well, how can we participate? And so one of the avenues or vehicles to be able to do that is through a foundation. There are a whole slew of cities that have foundations, and they use them to solicit donations, gifts, endowments, and everything else that are given to these foundations for the betterment of the community and also city assets such as parks and everything else. So if you don't mind, we have gone through and gathered some information there. But before I get started, I wanted to, I'm a person of I believe a lot of things happen by fate. And so when you gave me this particular task, I went to the foundation and trying to figure out what the best method was. And lo and behold, Jim Old, and this is Jim Old here. He's a DeBerry resident. That's his wife, Beth Old, sitting next to him there. Jim graduated from our Citizens Academy. They moved down about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And so he went through the academy, and he was so beloved by our city that he wanted to volunteer in some way, shape, or form. And so when he came to see me, he said, I'm retired, I'm going to be very honest, and I need something to do. And so when I asked him about, what can you do, his bio just absolutely fits right in here. His bio is right in front of you there. He's got 15 years with 501c3 organizations. He led some 501c3 organizations in the field of lacrosse and sports. He's got 25 years of voluntary experience as coach, U.S. Lacrosse National Membership and Operations Committee. He also won some awards for his leadership in the U.S. Lacrosse, and obviously he's DeBerry Citizens of Academy and graduate. And when he went through all those, I said, okay, I got a task for you. Yeah. Because the timing couldn't be better, and obviously his professional background with his consulting work, he's a veteran with the U.S. Navy. He flew F-14s, and of course, he's a FEMA certified emergency manager, which also caught my eye because we were just about going through hurricanes. And so then his education background with Masters in Public Administration. And so Mr. Old was so gracious to volunteer his time to research all of these particular types of organizations, these 501c, these foundations. He had contacted the sheriff department and done research on them, and we've met several times on on what it would take, what it would look like, what are some of the proposals that exist out there. He crafted the first round of bylaws. We made some adjustments. We sent it to our attorney's office. They made their particular adjustments. So this has kind of been massaged back and forth, and wanted to get your guidelines as we put this particular first draft together. Get some of your guidelines on what you think should change and not change. What are some of your fears? What are some of your things that you think are going to be great? We really want to work through this particular process, and it doesn't all have to come to finalizing today. We can certainly have more discussion agenda items, because we certainly want to make this one of the best foundations possible to serve our community. And so if you don't mind, I'll just go over some of the highlights of what we have put together, so that the general public and the council can understand where some of our initial philosophies have gone. So again, this particular mission is fostering a sense of community involvement, preservation of history, and contributing to continual growth of privately funded community projects. And the ultimately is preserving the history of the city of DeBary, true, civic, I always have trouble with this word, philanthropic projects.
Yes.
Directly contributing to the community pride and spirit, and then financially sponsoring new initiatives for the city involving civic, sporting, and art. The foundation, and of course you see a little note there, the foundation operates under the city council guidelines and not operational control. And one of the things that we envision with this particular foundation is obviously if they do have money, they want to contribute certain things to the city. It's in coordination with the city. The city has certain visions of what it wants in its parks, and we certainly don't want the foundation to try to do certain things that the city doesn't want. So there's going to be some coordination between the foundation and the city's strategic initiatives to make sure that what they do is in line with our organization. And so the purpose, obviously, is to solicit and accept gifts and donations, pledges of funds from interested persons or organizations. And then you can see there some of the particular purposes there, and those can be expanded or contracted depending on what you prefer. And just obviously some of the things is acquisition, construction, installation, and maintenance of personal memorials. One of the things we talked about was the bricks on Memorial Park. Selling those and installing those, some of the things that we had talked about. And then obviously people that can donate art, donate money, benches for Alexander Island. I'm just throwing out, possible scenarios. Helping building boardwalk at all the way around would be a phase 4 and phase 5 of Alexander Island. So there's just a whole slew of opportunities that may be possible. There are some foundations, and I'm going to use the UCF Foundation, where people give endowments to the UCF Foundation. That's also possible in this situation, as well as corporation or individuals giving specific just cash donations. They could give assets, they could give property, they could give a whole slew of things to the foundation. And then the foundation and its board of directors will determine what the best uses are in coordination with the city. So, and obviously one of the responsibilities, how do you get this thing started? And that's obviously with the board of directors, and what you see in the bylaws there, chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, and secretary, and then the board member. And then in here, we do have, as you know, all of our committees and stuff work off of management sponsors. That does allow the city manager or designated rep to be an advisory role. And that's that part of that coordination part that we were talking about. The additional members, obviously, they got some additional members there you may or may not agree with. And then obviously the staff. We always recommend a foundation to have legal counsel and if it becomes necessary, and large enough, hiring an executive director, because I don't know how large this will be. Only God knows how big this will get. And so the eligibility requirements, it was trying to do for the Board of Directors is limiting to 2 3-year terms. As you know, I'm in favor of 3-year terms. 4 seems to be a lot, 2 seems to be not enough, but 3 seems to be the middle number. That's when we started the city. Because we have to, these are volunteers and dedicating their time to this particular function. What is the right number? And so we require the eligibility elements that they be a resident of DeBary, and you'll see in here that we were requesting that the majority of the board be residents of DeBary, because we still want that DeBary ownership and that image. We will allow DeBary small business owners who have an invested interest in DeBary, corporate representatives that were DeBary's within their particular region, or elected officials that also serve DeBary. But unfortunately, city, and for good reason, city council members and city staff are prohibited from being on the board. So the other elected officials obviously are your state legislators, and they would be eligible to serve on the board if they so choose and the council so chooses. You may say, you might find that odd, but some of the other foundations, like the Sheriff Foundation, does have some other elected officials on there that serve, that are very influential and serve on that foundation board. So basically in the process there, obviously there's initiation, and you'll see in the plans there that that we would establish the foundation by a resolution. And the initial board would be selected by the DeBary City Council and approved by the DeBary City Council. After that, you will play no role whatsoever in the board selection. They will do their own recruitment for their board, et cetera, et cetera. We only play a role in the initiation of the board. And we want to try to make this foundation as independent from the council as possible. And that's really important, to keep that separation between the city and the foundation. And so we just kind of provided a timeline where the council, gets. We were briefing you tonight on the foundation concept. We still have some work to do based upon your input there, and as well as any more city attorney advice that is being provided to come to a final document here. And then we would select initial chairman, and then that responsibility under here I would go ahead and present initial chairman to the board, or to y'all, for your approval, if you shall approve that. And then the chairman and I would work on recruiting other board members to present to the council for approval. And whether we do that through an advertisement where people can apply, or various other means there, you will have a series of candidates to choose from. And then after that, and you see the term executive committee here, but that's really kind of the board. And then once you do that, so we anticipate that maybe by the second quarter, from April to June, that we would have an initial foundation meeting. We would get the initial chairman to brief the council between April and June. And of course, this depends on when we get to a final agreement or justification or final term of the bylaws. And then we would file with the state of Florida for the corporation creation, and then we would file for the federal IRS exemption under 501c3. And again, we think that would occur sometime in the third quarter of 2025, which is from July through September. And then we'll have to go through some various IT planning and marketing efforts. And so that's just a general timeline there of depending on when we come to a final set of bylaws that we can go to. Our initial thought is that we would establish a set of bylaws, establish the mission, choose the board, and then push them off for independence and operation there. And so once we get that selection there, then we would go ahead and do the legal filings, making sure that the resolution is passed, the initial chairman is chosen. We'll get all the legal stuff done through the city attorney. They would do all the filings with the state and the federal government and make sure that all those applications are approved. And then once approved, then we can move forward with the rest of the board and move forward on a quick and fast pace to get this thing up and running as fast as we can. So Jim Old is here. Sherry Simmons has worked on this project extensively as well, so has I. So we're all available for your questions and concerns. Again, this is just a initial draft. Your input and guidance is being sought to make sure that we can perfect a set of bylaws and move forward with this project if you so choose.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember So, what are your thoughts and any comments?
Could you go back to the slide where it says who is allowed to be on the board and who isn't? Yeah. Could you clean that up a little bit, like who is eligible and who is not eligible, instead of having everything underneath eligibility requirements, maybe? I know it's a little thing, but.
Yeah, it says, yeah, I will. And it says resident of DeBerry or, and so if you choose 5 or 7 members, if you choose 7, then at least 4 are going to have to be DeBerry residents. And then the other 3 would be a small business owner of DeBerry, a corporate representative in which they serve DeBerry, or an elected official that serves DeBerry. Now, can you have 7 folks all on all DeBerry residents? Sure. But it does allow 3 separate options, the small business owner, corporate, or an elected official also to be on there, but they cannot dominate the board.
I would definitely push, I always do, for 7, because people, they have interest. They show up for a little while, then they disappear sometimes. So with 5, it could leave you with 3 sometimes. So I like the 7 number. I would also stray away from elected officials outside of DeBerry that really has no passion or vision for the city. They love to have this on their resume, so when they move on, they can say they were on a board in DeBerry. They probably never did anything on it. It's just something that I see a lot. And this board, would they just focus on raising money, or would they also focus on maybe having events?
Well, they could have a number of fundraising events. That's not, theoretically, they could have golf tournaments to promote interest and market. They could have, they can actually implement and build some of the things that they're planning to do, where it takes the burden off the city, like putting in, benches and everything else. They can actually, depending on who they have, they can hire the contractors to install. There's just a number of different things that they have the authority to do.
The pavers at Memorial Park would be amazing, for sure. I know New Smyrna was big on that in their downtown area. I think it's cool myself, but other thing, so they could have like a disc golf tournament to raise money for a certain project.
Sure. They can do it. There would be just like any other nonprofit organization raising money. They can do it in a number of different ways to collect money.
So could members on the Gateway board also overlap and be on this board?
We have not restricted, but if you want to restrict it, that's certainly a possibility. We can add it to the bylaws. Now, can this foundation do something because it's art related, give money or do something with the Gateway Center for the Arts nonprofit? Sure. Can they do something for Babe Ruth? Sure. Can they do something for the disc golf organization? Sure. So there's again, it's all DeBerry related, and it's for the community, and so it's just not necessarily for the city, but it's also for the DeBerry community as well.
And Jim, thank you for your service. And I really think you're overqualified.
Yeah.
It's an amazing bio. I can't believe you walked in our door. Thank you so much. That's all I got.
Councilmember Pappalardo.
A couple thoughts and something I want to propose to the council. But first, I don't like emeritus memberships.
I'm sorry?
I don't
Emeritus.
like emeritus memberships.
Okay.
I would prefer not. I feel like when you're done,
You're done.
it's time to move on. Then the question, will this be a way to monetize naming rights to certain structures, large structures, existing structures, and new structures? So like if there's a pavilion or a gazebo that already exists, could naming rights be associated and monetized through this organization?
In my opinion, that would have to come to the council, would be doing the naming rights of the
Yeah,
assets.
that's a city asset.
They can work with the council, they can certainly make a presentation to the council and work in coordination with the council, but usually naming rights are done by the city council.
But I don't, okay. So something I'd like to propose that be added to capabilities of this foundation is a concept I've been trying to propose, something I haven't brought up to council yet because of sunshine law, but I want to get on people's radar, is the concept of a land bank. And my idea there is it's basically a conservation fund that could be used for the conservation of certain properties that may be deemed high priority, strategic, or sensitive, as well as opportunities for redevelopment of the village core area, depending on if the opportunity arises to acquire certain properties. What I'd like to add to this capability would be the ability for this organization to raise funds if there is a certain public interest that they'd be able to fundraise based on to acquire assets that may be under pending or likely development that would be unfavorable to the residents. So say there's perhaps a property on 1792 that is being targeted with Live Local to put apartments that nobody wants. But in order to stop that, you kind of need the skin in the game. Perhaps the organization is able to raise money in tandem with the city contributing whatever funds determined by council, in this case, appropriate to acquire such a property, just like we've purchased properties on Palm, on Mansion, and so forth. That's an ability I'd like to be put into the bylaws if possible. Granted, that does not have to be executed, but I would like that to be an ability of this foundation.
It is possible that there are certain individuals out there who want to provide endowments to increase conservation land and improve the environment. And they may dedicate those funds specifically for that purpose. We can put that in here as a possibility for them to do that. And they can acquire money and hold it for certain types of conservation and environmental projects that the city, and it is possible.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So thank you. So I don't know if that's something.
Well, and it's the same thing that if somebody has a property that's generally wetlands, they can certainly donate that property to the foundation and keep it in preservation from any government, so to speak, and do that preservation. So there's just a number of different avenues that if somebody wants to donate money to make sure that the environment's protected, they can donate money for that particular purpose, and this foundation could preserve that purpose either by purchasing sensitive lands or for any other reason.
Precisely. And Mr. Old, thank you for volunteering for this. This is not going to be a small feat, and I think you seem very capable, and I'm excited to see what we can do. So thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. I'll echo that sentiment also to you, Mr. Old. Thank you for getting interested and involved in the city of DeBary and taking this on. This was an interest for us to have a nonprofit. When we talked about both Main Street and Alexander Island, I could see how it could also impact other areas. Financial accountability would be my first concern and question. So they're going to be, as a nonprofit, doing their own filings. And is there any presentation or accountability to the city as well that we just kind of double check, or is that not needed?
Well, it is separate, but however, they are going to be considered a component unit of government. They will have to provide their documents to the city. Some foundations don't like that because some people like to donate money anonymously. But unfortunately, you can't have it both ways. And so, yeah, it won't be part of our budget, but it'll be the records will be here with the city on the foundation's finances and what it does.
Correct. Awesome. That's great, because if they're soliciting money and kind of on behalf of the city, I want to be accountable to the citizens that, hey, this is actually on behalf of the city, and we're keeping an eye on it also. As far as projects, and you say they're pretty much going to be separate from the city council and any of our approval, I think back to the committee that did the trees along 1792. That was very nice. They got a grant for that. But that was through city approval because it was in our easement. We kind of helped out with the engineering. And that ended up being pretty well received, I think, by the residents once they got over the height of the trees. If they have an idea for a project, whether it's trees or flower pots or pavilions, and they want it to be on city property or in an easement, do we have some sort of approval, or are we just going to walk into River City Nature Park one day and have, oh, look, there's a...
And that's the coordination with the city.
coordination is in here,
And that's,
yeah.
and that's where their initiatives have to align with the cities, and the city don't want those or can't have those, or let's say it's a legal liability, or it's unsightly or causes public safety hazards, then the city would highly recommend them not doing those particular activities. Now, they would need our approval to build it on city property. I mean, it's our property, and then we would have to make sure that, okay, it fits within all the regulations that we have to apply for. So anything on our property, obviously, it needs to be approved by the city, but it generally is in coordination with the city. If you don't want park benches in Alexander Island, they can't and they should not put park benches out on Alexander Island, if you don't want that to happen.
And you said all of these meetings will be publicly noticed, so theoretically, residents could come show up, listen, and give their own recommendations as well?
Yeah, and that's what, Mr. Geller here was talking, and I were talking about sunshine law and everything else, and yes, it's going to have to be, meetings have to be publicly advertised. They could use this particular room. They could use Florence K. Little. They could use Gateway if they want to hold their particular meetings, but they have to be advertised, and you will not be able to coordinate with them individually, each board member, because the sunshine law would apply.
Now, are those meetings going to be broadcast like video, the way we do our meetings, so that people can watch at home or check back? Or?
That's a policy decision.
Of the foundation.
I would say it doesn't have to be. They'll have to provide minutes. We would have those particular minutes if somebody wanted to make a public records request of their minutes. So they have to maintain minutes, and those could be requested, and we would have to provide them.
That sounds very good. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland.
Thank you, Mayor. I also concur with everyone. Thank you and your wife for allowing you the time to do this. I know she wants to travel, but she also wants to get rid of you, so it's all good. My question would be, and I don't know if Carmen, the Historical Preservation Board that we have now, how would that integrate with this? Would they be integrated, or?
That's a charter requirement.
Right,
and
but we're
that's not
talking
going to go into a foundation. It's not in the charter.
And I think the same thing. I think the same thing would apply. Would be that obviously if they might have an initiative to, let's say, one day build a DeBerry Museum, okay? I think that's on their strategic initiative there, and it might be an opportunity where somebody donates land, and ultimately they work in partnership with the historic committee and the city council on making that happen one day. We don't know. It's a possibility. But they would work in coordination with the historic board. I don't think they'll create historic policy like the historic board does or the city council does, but they can work in coordination with them. And based upon their strategic initiatives, they certainly have maybe some of the financial resources that will eventually, that's on the historic board strategic initiatives and ours, that they can accomplish some of those things that are on their list. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. I just didn't want that to be what happens to us now, kind of thing. I'm a little concerned with the start of having 2-year and 3-year terms, the years. I think until we get it started, the first set should be 1 and 2, and then go to 3. I just feel that I don't think people understand a lot, and that I've talked to don't understand the foundation. and what it entails as far as time goes. I'm on 3 nonprofit boards, believe me, it takes time. To commit for 3 years might be something, maybe we'll start with the 1 year and 2 year, and then upon reelection can go to the 3 year. I don't have a problem with the 3 year, I just don't think we should start with that, with the uncertainty of how that goes, but that's just my opinion, which you're asking for. And the compensation, it says that no board or no directors, but it doesn't talk about the executive board that I could see in here not to be compensated. Now, you said executive director may be hired later, but it doesn't say that. I didn't see it in here.
Well, the executive director is on page,
I know I saw him, but the executive, you talk about directors, but not the executive board.
yeah, I think the intent
So there's
is-
it needs to be,
well, the intent is that the board would not be paid, it'd be totally volunteer. And then certainly they could hire folks, staff, assistants, clerical, executive director, and it would kind of operate like we do here on the city council. You have
right.
me as an executive director, and then you have the board, and so it would pretty much operate like the city
Well,
does.
in one place you talk about the executive committee, and then one place you talk about directors.
And the words committee needs to be converted to board.
That's right, okay.
This
So
way there's
that's,
no confusion.
there's no
Yeah.
confusion there. No, that's okay, I just wanted to clarify
Yep.
because I've done, like I say. And then, blah, blah, blah. And my timing was IRS and the state. I mean, are they on schedule with their policies? I don't know what they're doing. I know
Well,
I know we're talking third quarter, and I'm hoping that they don't delay it for any reason. The
Well, again,
IRS is kind of,
that's an unknown.
yeah.
And so, but generally, your corporation, you can create a corporation in about 15 minutes.
Right.
As far as the IRS is concerned, you're probably looking at about 60 to 90-day process.
It's going faster. You think so, but okay.
Maybe it'll go faster after January the 20th.
The other thing I would like to see is some sort of application. If people want to give money, a form of some sort to say I would like to see what that kind of looks like. It doesn't have to be today, it doesn't have to be next month, whenever, And just to reiterate why this all started is people want to donate, and they can't give money to the city. They just are not allowed to do that. So, or we're not allowed to take it, I should say. They can give money to the city, we can't take it. So I would like to see some sort of form or what the commitment is for people. If they put their name on a bench, is it for 10 years? Is it lifetime? Is it 30, all that kind of stuff. So that's just that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay.
I think it was enough.
First of all, I think that the idea of a foundation handling many of these things is a really strongly based idea. And I reiterate the appreciation for Jim Old stepping up to help us with this task of trying to figure out how it would work, excuse me, how it would work and get it off the ground. And I appreciate all the work so far and all the work you're going to do in the next 6 months, 9 months. I'm thinking several things. First of all, when I read through the draft, I did speak with staff, and there was nothing in the draft that explicitly said art. Now, the city manager's presentation specifically includes art, and I showed staff where I thought that was an additional word to be spread throughout the document and where it would work. Because I think that public art is something that I find appealing. I am not as fond of the idea of taking our very carefully used ad valorem dollars and trying to carve that out. Similarly, there is reference to scholarships. Again, I'm not sure that scholarships, my personal view is that ad valorem should not go to scholarships. These are things that a foundation can do if they choose to go that direction. And it takes it out of the ad valorem, and so if 80% of people like the fact that we're doing public art, but 20% think that that's wrong for their taxes to be used for that, it's not their taxes. And yet it offers a soundly developed way for that to be pursued if that is of interest. It is of interest to me. I believe Councilmember Papalardo, I've heard you say things that indicate you have interest in that as well. As far as donating property, preservation, et cetera, I think it gets, personally, I think it gets a little tricky and it would have to be really well thought out. But donation of property to the foundation for the foundation's use and careful handling, I'm happy to see that. Now, what happens with many foundations is when they're given property is they decide, as I think the city manager mentioned, the best use, which may mean reselling it. And so I don't think it needs to, in the bylaws, be limited to all property received must be held in perpetuity. And I'm also interested in the idea of a foundation being able to, over time, become mature enough to accept donations of things that would be assets that would create money over time in various structures. Some of these would be qualified charitable distributions from retirement accounts, but some of them might be the one-off that you can do, which is a charitable gift annuity. The foundation would have to be real well established and get their sea legs before they could offer that. But that is a structure you can do once in a life up to $50,000 and actually have it structured where you, during your lifetime, receive some and the foundation would get the remainder upon your passing. These are things that other kinds of fundraising organizations do use. That one's, way down the road because it takes a lot of work. But these are things that could create revenue streams to invest in DeBary over a very long period of time. Doing things that the people and the foundation identifies and has support from the community and whoever is sitting on this dais and running this city at the time find important, and it would not depend on ad valorem taxation. And so I'm very excited about this structure. Now, I'm a practical person, so we have this period of time in the proposed timeline where we have a corporate entity, but we don't have a 501(c)(3). The city has already put in significant effort, and this is taxpayer money, time of staff, legal time. As rapidly as possible, I would like the foundation to be covering their own legal expenses and the practical expenses of getting up and running. To that end, once there is a corporation and it needs funds to file for the state and federal approvals to become a legitimate 501(c)(3), I am here putting on the record now, I will personally provide $1,000 that does not need to be tax deductible to cover those actual expenses. And I'm led to believe that that should be adequate to cover the state and federal filings. Mr. Old, you have some experience in this area. Do you believe that that would be adequate to cover?
I've done some of that, but I'm really, as I've been putting this together, I really need one of the first people to be picked is a financial person.
Right.
To understand that the quickest way to get in trouble is with money.
Yep.
And that's not my expertise, and I'll admit that right up, but we need someone, when I was talking with the city manager, of who we're looking at, the financial person to help constitute the board and to handle the money and set all those processes up.
Right. But what I'm saying is you're not going to be a 501(c) till you incorporate.
Right.
And that will be in theoretically second quarter sometime.
Correct.
And we don't anticipate you can make it through the process to becoming a 501(c)(3) until the third quarter or perhaps the beginning of the fourth quarter. There is a cost involved. So you're a corporation at this time and you're going towards this. What I am saying is, personally, I will give you $1,000 that does not need to be tax deductible because you won't be a tax deductible entity. And I am hopeful that that will cover your actual expenses to get to the point where you are a 501(c)(3). Just that amount. It doesn't take a real highly skilled financial person to husband $1,000 through the process, I don't think.
No,
but I'm saying to you, I will give that corporation $1,000, and I'm not worried about the tax repercussions. It doesn't need to have any tax protection at all.
Thank
And
you,
it's a
Mayor.
rapid process once it starts.
Right. So, but you need the check to send in to the state, and you need the check to cover the application process. And whatever brief, hopefully a lot of pro bono, legal help that you need to get that accomplished. Okay?
Any questions while I'm up? All right, okay.
All right?
Thank you, Mayor.
Surely. City Manager, anything else you want to say before we give you some direction, if we do, any further direction?
Excuse me, just on a couple things here, this emeritus memberships, one council member brought it up that he prefers not to. Is everybody kind of in agreement to that? We can kind of strike that?
I think for the time being, I'm comfortable with striking it because we're so far away from having an emeritus. This is in foundation, by the time there would be an emeritus, will be operating independently, and this document says that they may amend their bylaws as they see fit.
Yeah.
So I think we don't need to get that far into it ourselves here at this moment.
Okay, we'll remove it. And then we'll install the land bank provisions that they
Right.
can accept land, buy and sell land if they want to, conserve land if they want to, improve the environment if they want to. So we'll put all those provisions in there
Okay?
as well.
And art has been amended already in it?
Yeah, art
Okay.
has been amended there. Let me just check and see if, the term limits, one council member proposed 1 to 2 years. I would recommend, because one of the ultimate things, we want to, just like us, the council, the terms are staggered. So this way you don't have folks, all the board leaving at the same time. So that's, I don't know if you want to initially start with 2 years, with some of them 3 years, go 3 years or 4 years. What is your preference on that? Because that was brought up by the.
I like the 2-year than 3-year, so if you have someone that wants to get off, they can in 2 years. They're not committing the rest of their life to it. You get those that won't want to leave, and those that you don't want them to leave. And then there are those that you want to leave.
So we'll try to see what we can do to stagger that from the very beginning. We'll designate 2 offers, or, part of the officers 2 years, part of the officers 3 years.
I'm okay with that.
And that 2-year would actually be considered a 3-year term, so to speak, for term limits. So they can serve 2-year and then a 3-year term. So that therefore, those, maybe a certain portion of the board members can only serve initially 5 years, and some will be able to if they go 2 terms, can go 6 years. And then the other question, if you don't mind, Mr. Sell, we talked about 5 or 7 members, and I thought I heard him say that he prefers 7. Does the council agree with moving forward with 7?
Yes.
I initially thought 5, but I am seeing your point for 7, and I have no issue with that. That was just reminds me of one more thing. The question about being somewhat hesitant to have an elected official there who might use it for other purposes, et cetera. The flip side of that is sometimes you have elected officials who actually buy into the vision and actually bring contacts and pots of financial assets to fundraisers that the foundation might not otherwise have. So I think they should be eligible. I don't think it should be mandated that every constitution of the board should have one. But there may well be an upside equal to the potential for the downside, and it really depends on the individual. So what is your thought about that?
I just find politicians promise everything and then they never deliver.
Well, but a politician.
Coming from a politician, I know.
But from a politician that is is front and center on a golf tournament may double the revenue compared to a local foundation with people without that much platform. That's the flip side.
I guess you can leave that up to the board. I do suggest that Jim gets a 10-year term before he realizes that he got way too far into things.
And that he never become a
He
politician.
forgets what his wife looks like. And yeah, we need to assimilate him in really quickly.
Yes.
Can I have a point of clarification?
Yes.
When you talk about officials, we're talking about officials that represent the city of DeBary.
In some form or
In some
another.
form or another. They're
Right.
not
So this could be a
East Side,
state
it's-
senator, this could be a state senator
Right.
representing this part of Volusia as well as part of Brevard or whatever.
So they have a vested
Who
interest
might
in DeBary.
have assets and connections and platforms that might make a fundraiser more successful than without having that person as part of the organization. The flip side is, as you say, you wouldn't want it to be co-opted for political gain or whatever by someone who is an elected official. So it comes down to a matter of judgment on the foundation's part. Yes, Councilmember Papalardo.
I have a comment on number of terms. I think a third term would not be inappropriate in this scenario. I think something that we pushed just recently was that promotion clause that passed referendum very successfully. I think there is a certain amount of long-term investment that people are willing to put their time into in DeBary. And I also think that something that can become moderately complicated, such as this foundation, to have 2 terms as maybe treasurer, then just a general board member, and then perhaps a chairman, I don't think that should be off the table. Now, does that mean just outright have 3 terms as a possibility, or perhaps allow that promotion clause? I think that's something that should be at least considered.
I don't see any problem with that. Typically, some of your nonprofits, they hire VPs, they appoint VPs, knowing that that VP will automatically take over the president thereafter.
Sherry Simmons, would you like to say something about the work so far, or a question that has come up?
Well, I appreciate all your comments, and thank you, Mayor. I think we did put Art definitely in there.
It wasn't in what the other council members saw, so I wanted to be clear that I had given you a text and that you were saying you have incorporated it. So I wanted that to be clear, that you knew that was not what you read when you read it home.
And I think, Councilman Sell, to kind of allay your fears a little bit, there are, for lack of a better word, a punishment. So if someone misses, and I don't have the document in front of me, 2 or 3 meetings, they're off the board. So that means if a politician just throws his name in the hat and thinks they're going to stay on the board regardless, they have to participate.
There will be commitment.
There's a commitment, yes. And I forgot the number. You may have it in front of you. It's 2. They can't miss more than 2 or 3, and I apologize. I don't.
And some of those elected officials are only elected for 2 years, and they have to run again. So they might not even be an elected official after 2 years. So if they served a 3-year term, that 3rd year, they would not be an elected official, possibly.
Correct.
So.
Well, and the other factor, if I may, Mayor, we were at the legislative delegation yesterday. Well, there are nonprofits that are asking for legislative appropriations. There are nonprofits that apply for grants if they et cetera, et cetera. So there is opportunities for these foundations to be able to increase their revenues through grants or legislative appropriations, and you will find that sometimes your elected officials are some of your best allies in those endeavors.
Well, once I heard that there is a commitment part to this, I'm pretty happy with that.
Okay, great. All right, City Manager, you were looking for discussion, which you've got, and guidance. Do you have enough guidance from these discussions?
Yes.
Or is there something specific you would like us to reach consensus on before we wrap up this agenda item?
No, you've given me enough here, and then I can speak to y'all individually on each one of these items, and then I'll get your confirmation with the specific language. Obviously, with the resolution, there's only 1 meeting, but we can certainly bring it back for a discussion one more time, go over this one more time, and then bring back a resolution.
Okay.
But 7 members. We'll eliminate the emeritus memberships. We'll put the land bank in there. We'll do 2 to 3 year terms with some promotional opportunities, and then we'll go from there. But everything else, everybody seems to be on board with.
Okay. So we move on to reports. Councilmember Sell.
It's only been 8 days. I have nothing to add. Congratulations to Jim Papalardo for getting reelected, and congratulations to Phyllis for being our vice mayor again. We like to keep her busy.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Congratulations, Councilmember Sell, on being reelected. I'd like to thank the residents of DeBary for the vote of confidence, or no votes of confidence, permitting me to continue to serve DeBary for a second term. And special thanks to my wife, Kaylee, for her boundless support. I'm so thankful for everything you do for our family.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Congratulations, Councilmember Sell and Councilmember Papalardo, and Vice Mayor Butlin, again, on your term for Vice Mayor. And that's it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin. I only had to call you Councilmember Butlin once in the whole meeting.
Thank you. I want to thank the council for your vote of confidence. Congratulations, Councilmember Papalardo and Councilmember Sell, on your reelection and swearing in today. It's good to have you back. I did attend the delegation meeting yesterday. It's very interesting.
Yes.
It's a whole topic for a whole nother day. We're not
Yes.
going to discuss it, but it was interesting to see, again, all the people that were asking for money, 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 money. And most of it was infrastructure, and I feel like we need infrastructure, but we're pretty solid in DeBary, and compared to what these people were asking for, millions and millions of dollars. And it just really, I'm thankful for the city and Carmen and the staff for really being on top of it all. The girls were there, Casey and Eliana, and they were like, wow, that's a lot of money. So it was good to, good to be a part of that. So thank you. That's it for me.
I join the others in welcoming both Councilmember Sell and Councilmember Papalardo back to the council. Congratulations on your being elected, and congratulations to you, Vice Mayor, for remaining Vice Mayor. I have enjoyed working with you these past years and expect that will continue to be the case. In piggybacking off the Vice Mayor's comments about the legislative appropriations requests, I was thinking about that again today as I wrote a lengthy email expressing my opinion as a Volusia resident and also from my viewpoint as DeBary Mayor to each member of the Volusia County Council about my opinions on things that they are considering in their upcoming workshop on a proposed moratorium that some would promote for the entire county, including municipalities. And in reviewing my points, which is there's very serious, heartbreaking issue with flooding, and someone needs to address it in the jurisdictions where this is an issue. And that needs to be acknowledged. But I don't personally believe that legislatively the council for the county has the jurisdiction to impose a moratorium in DeBary. And then I said there are things that are in DeBary that the flooding in DeBary after Milton, around 30 homes, when our existing infrastructure's capacity was exceeded for a brief period of time, and other things happened, including failure of retention ponds in an adjacent city that affected our. None of these were happened in newly constructed subdivisions adjacent to existing communities. These happened in communities where the last construction was 20 years or longer away, and there is nothing new adjacent. And in the part of our city where there is new construction, we had no flooding. And that area actually is about 5 miles away from where the flooding did occur in those 30 homes out of 8,800 homes. And it's at a altitude, it's at a much lower geographical level than the areas that flooded. So it's highly unlikely ever to affect any of the existing. And so we didn't experience this. And then we have done much of the work that they're proposing to do with a moratorium. And that was triggered, my thought about that was triggered when the Vice Mayor mentioned about our very targeted requests for legislative appropriations. And we've done this consistently every year since 2019. And we have looked forward. We're doing that very painful closure of Fort Florida Road now, before the other 3 sections of Rivington are done, and before there are any additional developments there at DeBary Main Street. And we're doing it before. Is it painful? Yes. Was it budgeted? Yes. Did we start years ago? Yes. We've methodically marched towards that. And then we also, there's talk of rewriting the land development code for these jurisdictions during this moratorium. We have already done that work. We began in 2019. We were slowed down by COVID. We had the draft in September of 2024. We implemented our own moratorium for 9 months. October of 2024, we lifted it as scheduled. July of 2025, because this council did what they say they were going to do, we methodically went through every chapter of the completely rewritten code and then voted it in and lifted the moratorium. We've done that already. And in that code, it was guided by cutting-edge consultants who knew what the latest thought was on these kinds of codes, and it actually encourages things like low-impact development, which is something that is being touted as should be considered in these other jurisdictions, and it probably should. And then we've done things, you know, the things that they have said would be wise moves for jurisdictions to do, we have done. We have turned down rezoning from commercial to residential to put townhouses on a property that had 10 acres out of 28 wetlands. We don't do that. Then we followed up and said, we'll buy that and we'll never let it be built on again. We have bought other land to conserve it. These are all things that are being made as suggestions. There's been some talk in some other areas that might be developable in the southern part of the city where I know that the city staff has been encouraging the kind of things that are being said should be part of the county and other municipalities' approach to future development. Don't raise the land. Keep some mature trees, don't clear cut. We have some clear cutting. A lot of this was done before we were here. But going forward, we're aware of these things too, and we don't wait for someone else to act. We apply these ideas as the opportunities present themselves. We tightened up our tree code when we redid the land development code. So I had the same impression when I was thinking through this communication with the city council members, as I said, as a Volusia resident and also the county. As a Volusia resident and also from my viewpoint personally as DeBary mayor. We've done the work, we didn't have the problem, and it's inappropriate for the moratorium to apply to DeBary. I do believe that jurisdictions that are adjacent and have a common problem and have common infrastructure like canals, yes, they might want to coordinate their moratoriums if that's the right thing for them. You do need to address these things. And DeBary has. And so that was the same sort of thought that I had today in writing that. And I would encourage any of you that has a viewpoint on this proposal, the workshop is next week, and you could, whatever your viewpoint is, it may not agree with mine, and we don't coordinate on these things, but I would encourage you to, if it matters to you, you might want to also voice it or attend the workshop. City Manager?
Well, speaking of that, I plan to attend that particular meeting. Quite frankly, a countywide moratorium would certainly hurt our momentum in the TOD. It could certainly curtail some of the investment that's committed there. By shutting it down for a year without no reason or purpose. And just to piggyback on what the mayor had talked about is that we've really negotiated down density. And, you know, we talked about Main Street where we reduced the density by 50 or 60%. And that's some of the impacts that these folks can do is negotiate down density. We talked about, you heard me make some recommendations about if you want to help with your draining system, build borough pits. You know, and we heard yesterday one or two of the cities that were before us talking about buying land to build the borough pit, which is inspiring because they're listening and they're using us as benchmarks. But we have, since 2008, have been on a fast track to eliminate all our flooding issues. And unfortunately, here we are 2025, and some of these cities are still at our 2008. And they're now having to deal with the changing standards. The St. John's Water Management District standards will change by statute on January 1, 2026. And so there will be some new standards coming in. The question is what do you do between now and then? And that is negotiate. And even some of the developments that are going through our process right now, we're asking some of those questions right now. And you'll hear some of the answers. Even in the DRC meeting the other day, that's some of the things that we were talking about. Speaking of legislative delegations, we proposed three actions. One is the parking garage at Main Street. We asked them just to accelerate that for us. Again, it's that momentum thing. The business study that was done, we're going to be predominantly high-end restaurants, bars, and taverns down there. And as I told the delegation yesterday, the study will show that we will be the central or the social entertainment center for Southwest Volusia at DeBary Main Street. That's where everybody will go to eat and socialize and gather, will be at our DeBary Main Street. The second one, obviously because of Hurricane Milton, West High Banks project, they were extremely impressed that all 21 of our stormwater projects are fully engineered and shovel ready. And you could hear some people behind me talk when I was up there at the podium talking about all 21 projects are fully engineered and ready to go. A lot of the folks got up before us were the project's 30% engineered. I need money for engineering, right, and everything else. And so, but the legislature's looking for shovel-ready projects, and now we're ready to go. So West High Banks, going from the train tracks all the way to the river is an $8.5 million project. And so we kind of broke it up into phase one, which is about $3 million. And that's the three lots that we own there, is to build the retention pond in there, and then cleaning the water before it goes to the river, and then that portion going all the way out to the river. Obviously, that became an essential part with Hurricane Milton, that we will go ahead and push forward with that as we revise our strategic initiatives based upon Hurricane Milton. And then obviously we asked for money for our stormwater. We got, the other 20 are medium and small projects. We asked for money let's get started with some of these other projects. So we asked for $1.5 million to get started on our 20 other projects. And they're all fully engineered, ready to go. And then after that, after we get done with these 20 projects, we basically pretty much done unless isolated incidents that occur. So we'll move forward with that, totaling about $5 or $6 million that were our ask. And so, as you know, we try to seek other people's money, these grants and these appropriations, because it's a competition, and we're a competition with other entities. I also want to remind you, the school hearing is next Wednesday. Again, we'll have 3 meetings this month. Our celebration to the U.S. Army veterans and U.S. Army is taking a life on its own. We plan on doing a ceremony on President's Day, which is February the 17th at 10 a.m. And through some contacts, and Sherry had some of the contacts there, former deputy assistant secretary to the Army will be coming in from Washington for this particular ceremony. And so she did some of her contacts there. And the event may get a lot larger than we anticipated. And so we may have to do some parking at Gemini Springs. We have to do shuttles and stuff like that. But it's going to be a top-notch event as we celebrate the veterans, the U.S. Army veterans, and bringing that tank in there. It will be delivered a little bit before, but ultimately it'll be ready to go when the presentation comes on President's Day. We didn't think that we were going to get it done this fast and refinished it and everything else. We were kind of anticipating Memorial Day, but We went to go see it. It's almost done. Mr. Sell was with us there. It's already done. The tank, you can come on up. Tank is named the Spirit of DeBerry, which I think, as we look at this particular tank, it kind of does represent the city of DeBerry. And you look at some of the attributes of this particular tank, it kind of fits. It's small, it's agile, it leads a lot of initiatives of bigger tanks. It's out front. It does a lot of reconnaissance. It benchmarks. It does a lot of things that way, and it just kind of represents what DeBerry's all about. So, but anyway, we look forward to that. And Sherry, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, Mr. Sell actually smiled when he was out there the other day. So
Did you have a camera?
I have the picture of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But no, I hope you all join us and give Secretary Hipp a warm DeBerry welcome. He's excited, and you may see him. He's on a lot of the news, so he's trying to line up some of his big Newsmax, CNN, Newsmax, Florida Voice. So this may be covered nationally. So, and Mayor, I know you'll be speaking on that.
Yes.
I like to add that the tank has character. I think that's the term. And it's also a survivor.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's a
There
cool
you go.
tank.
Is there going to be a parade for the tank coming in?
No.
We're not
because-
advertising that?
No, we were kind of thinking about doing that, but with Secretary Hipp, who's going to be there,
You
it
don't
needs
wanna
to be in
take the-
place. Yeah.
You don't want to take that away from.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's going to take a little bit of time to place it. We're looking at having, everyone waving flags. Casey's working on a Clayton in a tank design. We'll get those cookies again, stickers. So we're going to make it fun, but it's also dedicating this tank to our residents, our Army veteran and active current and past service members. So it's going to be a wonderful occasion. Pastor Stortz is going to do the invocation. We have someone from World War II Armor who's going to speak along with the mayor and Carmen, and so we're very excited. We have ROTC coming. We're trying to get the Army Band. We have the VFW presenting the colors, Honor Guard presenting the colors. So it's going to be, as Carmen said, a first-class event. The way we do things, as Carmen says, we're proud of our achievements, and we look forward to sharing this with our community.
Thank you. Okay, City Attorney, anything to report?
Just want to add my congratulations to the Vice Mayor and to the new old council members on the other side of the dais. And you all can really feel good about people coming in here and begging to be annexed.
There you go. Well, hearing no further business, we stand adjourned.